Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another week of Wrestling with Wrestling. I'm Steve, joined as always by the best damn referee, not just in the independent wrestling business, but I would say in all of the professional wrestling business. The great Doc Gregory. How's it going, Doc?
It is going really good. I'm having a wonderful week so far. I started off Monday by taking my wife out to go see Guardians of the Galaxy, and we both really enjoyed that film. So I would recommend that to anybody who are Marvel fans and would like to go see this. Chris Pratt is awesome, and it was just an amazing film. I'm not going to give anything away, but I'm looking forward to Guardians of the Galaxy 2 at this point. Um, but beyond that, it's a regular work week, and I'm ready to rock and roll and talk some wrestling with you, Steve.
Sweet. Well, you're at the right place.
Am I?
Yeah, I think so. I think this is the wrestling show. I don't know. I'll have to check the comments and see if people complain about the fact that we're talking about wrestling.
I know.
And then I'll know for sure that it's the wrestling show.
It's been rough. I mean, I understand that you and I both have AIDS at this point.
Well, you got to die of something, I guess. So let's dive into Monday Night Raw, because this was the big go home show for SummerSlam, either the second or third biggest pay-per-view of the year, depending on how you rank it relative to the Royal Rumble. SummerSlam is always a really big deal, and they have done a pretty good job, I think, of building this up to seem like a bigger show than the other monthly pay-per-views. And this is the last Raw before the big SummerSlam show, and Raw started out with Brock Lesnar in the house to push the show, and Paul Heyman with him, of course. And Paul Heyman opened the show by cutting a really awesome promo. He's cut a lot of great promos over the years, and I certainly wouldn't say this was like his best promo ever, but this was a really good promo, a really good, like, hard sell, like really push the match and push the show.
Mm-hmm.
And he's done a really good job of verbalizing and visualizing with words the beating that John Cena is going to get. I think they've done a really good job of selling the show to people who don't like John Cena by kind of having Heyman come out and promise those people, oh, no, if you don't like John Cena, you should still watch the show because Brock's going to fucking kill him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's been doing that gradually throughout the week since this match has been set in stone. It's the same story. I mean, he's going out there and he's basically doing the same promo, but every time he amps it up a little bit more. And since this is like the go home show, it was over the top, where he just pulled out all those different comparisons to matches you wanted to see, because this was going to be the epic match. And honestly, like I said, and I really don't have a whole lot of love for John Cena, but I am very invested in this match because I'm actually pulling for Brock, because I just want to see Brock kill him. I mean, so, Heyman has sold this really well. I just want to see Brock kill him. Can he do it?
Yeah, I feel the same way. Like I'm kind of in the same boat with you, Doc, where I'm certainly not a hater of either guy, but I'm not like a huge fan either. If I heard that John Cena or Brock Lesnar was going to be on a particular show, that by itself wouldn't make me any more likely to watch the show. But yeah, they've done such a good job pushing this match, and we talked about it when we were mentioning the video package they did last week. It feels like a big match. It feels like a big fight, and they've done a really good job pushing it as such. And Heyman even did a freestyle rap promo at the end, like John Cena used to.
Mm-hmm. Honestly,
yeah.
when he went into that whole rap thing, I thought it was really cool. And of course, later in the show, we're treated to another nursery rhyme, and I thought, what the fuck did they hire on Dr. Seuss as one of the head writers backstage? I mean, is this whole next week we're going to see WWE the musical, and Cesaro is good for that. We have some guys that can sing over in NXT, so we can do WWE the musical.
I'm surprised that hasn't been done. I mean, as often as they try to keep wringing blood from the stone that is their WWE Films division, I'm surprised they haven't tried to capitalize on, the resurgent popularity of musicals and done But none of I don't. But then again, I shouldn't be surprised because none of their movies are about wrestling, which is, a wrestling company a film production company, and none of their movies are about wrestling. Uh, so anyway, there's a cute bit at the end of the promo that to sort of set up Brock coming back to do an angle later, but the way they perform it is kind of neat. Where Heyman finishes with his rap and puts the mic down, and then Brock kind of like gives him one of these, and Heyman picks the mic back up as though he's forgotten that he had one more bit to add, and the bit that he adds is that the ring and the arena and WWE in general is Brock's house now. He's the man of the house. All the people belong to him, and John Cena is just an intruder in his house. And Brock is going to go out to dinner, but he's going to come back home after dinner. And if anybody's in his ring when he gets home, it's going to be big trouble. I thought that was kind of cute. I always hear these stories about Brock. Whenever Brock isn't wrestling or fighting, he goes home to Minnesota and all he does is like hunt. I always picture like Brock Lesnar just walking into his house with like just a fucking a deer carcass over his shoulder and just thumping it on the table, going, "Honey, dinner."
I actually imagine him just out in the brush and everything, and he's hunched down and he's snarling and he's looking through the woods, and the deer comes up along the pasture, and he just barrels through the fucking bush, and he don't have a gun in his hand or anything. He just tackles the thing and breaks its neck, and that's how he kills the deer, takes it home
with his bare hands.
He's the beast incarnate.
Oh shit, yeah. If it was if Brock had come along like in the 80s when it was a lot more cartoony and cheesy, I bet there would have been vignettes of him doing that. Like Vince would have sent a camera crew like out to the woods, and Brock would have been stalking deer and wrestling it with his bare hands. Yeah, so a really good hard sell promo from Heyman and Brock. Brock didn't do anything but stand there and look intimidating, but he does that very well. And then there's some more really obnoxious shilling for the WWE Network, where they keep telling people what it is and how much it costs, as if that by itself will get people to buy it. I still don't get that. I still don't get why you would want to try to get people to buy your product by making it as irritating and obnoxious as possible, but that seems to be the strategy they're taking. And then we get to the first match, and as has become sort of the pattern for the last few weeks, the first match is Roman Reigns. He's been sort of opening the show the last couple of weeks, and this week he opens the show with a handicap match versus Ryback and Curtis Axel, and before the match starts, it is introduced by Corporate Kane, who is once again in the suit and tie and the director of operations. And I think he referred to himself in the third person here. He talked about Kane as though Kane was a different person, which was a little weird.
It's fairly stupid. I don't know what they're doing there with Kane. I mean, could they make him look like a more indecisive character than they already have? I was hoping, because I heard through the grapevine that they were going to try to revamp him and do that Jacob Goodnight character from the movie See No Evil. I thought they was going to come back out and do something along that lines, but we haven't seen it. It went right back to Corporate Kane, and it doesn't make him look any better. And then, of course, his first night out, he just makes a small little mistake, and we don't like that in WWE, but it was noticed by the fans, and they got on him for it because he said 6 months instead of 6, or he said 6 weeks instead of 6 days. See, I made a mistake as well, but yeah, but no, I didn't get it. Corporate Kane, I don't think it was necessary, and neither did I think this match between Roman Reigns and Ryback Axel. I really don't think that the outcome of this match really made sense to me. I mean, to have them beat down Roman Reigns and get disqualified and everything, and just for him to come back and beat their ass anyways, why didn't he just beat them?
That seems to be the consensus among the reactions to this match. I would tend to agree. I mean, if you do a disqualification, that suggests that maybe you want to protect the guys who are losing the match, so one of them doesn't have to take a pinfall. But why would you want to protect Ryback Axel anyway at this point? Because they've been losing to Stardust and Goldust for the last 2 months anyway. So it's, what are you protecting? And B, Roman kills him anyway. Mm-hmm. So why not have him get a pinfall on one of them? I mean, I don't really get that either. And it wasn't really. I mean, it wasn't a terrible match, but it wasn't a great match either. It was basically just it ended up with Roman making his comeback with his typical stuff, and his typical stuff is good. It's exciting, but I'm worried because I really like Roman Reigns, and I want his push to succeed, and I want him to get over the top that like clearly the WWE wants him to. But I'm worried that it's starting to get a little stale. I mean, the crowd for Raw seemed to like it. Like they were actually chanting for the spear before he speared him after the match, which was cool. But I don't know. It's like he's been doing really the exact same thing for a couple of months now, and it's like if you don't add a new wrinkle at some point, it's going to start getting old. What do you think?
I think one thing that drove me nuts about this is when they opened the match, they let Roman look strong against both of those guys, and WWE got to credit them, man. They really know how to utilize commercial time, because I guess a commercial was coming up, and they had the old switch where then Ryback cut Roman off and got some heat on him, and when we came back, we saw that finish of whatever heat Ryback was given to Roman Reigns, and he turned around and started doing his comeback, and until the point where they got into the outside and got themselves disqualified. So they completely, really, except for that beatdown, didn't give a whole lot of in-ring spotlight to neither one of those guys. So I mean, we didn't get to see any of the heat because they went, straight to commercial. But
yeah.
But I think going into this match between him and Randy Orton into the pay-per-view, and it really should be bigger than this match. Really should feel bigger at this point than it does, because it's already been overshadowed by 2 matches on SummerSlam. They should really make him look strong, because Randy Orton's coming off. Well, no, Randy Orton gets the match, I believe, with Sheamus later on. So they want competitors going into this match to look strong. They did. I just don't think they went about it the right way with Ryback. They should just split that team up, because they're going nowhere except for just being whipping boys for whatever crop of wrestlers they got going on right now. So maybe somewhere around the corner they'll turn it around, but I don't know if they've dug their hole way too deep. With all the budget cuts, those guys could be gone tomorrow.
Yeah, that's true. You raised a good point about the SummerSlam match. I mean, on paper, you would think that Roman Reigns versus Randy Orton would be the number 2 match, right below the main event, because Randy Orton has consistently been pushed as a top guy and is a former champion and main evented WrestleMania this year. Is actually the only guy who worked that WrestleMania main event who's still with the company at this point, because Batista's gone and Daniel Bryan is still out injured for a while. And Roman Reigns, their hot new guy that they're building up, you think that would be the number 2 match, but it's not. It doesn't even feel like the number 3 match sometimes. I mean, it depends. Sometimes the Rollins-Ambrose match seems like it's at about the same level. And the Steph versus Brie match is way above it in terms of heat and in terms of anticipation. It's like, how is Roman Reigns and Randy Orton not like the semi-main event of this show? It feels like just another match, which is too bad, especially for Roman. Anyway, after the match, Roman cuts a promo in the ring with Renee Young, and it's a short promo, and he actually shows a little bit more personality than he usually does. And I think he did good, but I think he came this close to maybe just overdoing it a little. He was a little too out there and big and gregarious, because he's been so tight and stoic all these months. But he said that he's gonna knock Randy Orton's the Viper, and he's gonna knock Randy Orton's fangs down his throat and turn the Viper into a harmless little worm. So,
yeah, that was a good threat. I'll accept that. But yeah, you're right. It was kind of on the borderline, because I think he was giving more than what you're used to. It just felt a little awkward to me, like he was not. It was out of his normal shoes. But you got to do that with the WWE. You got to connect with them somehow. So it can't just be grunts.
No.
And or just. Yeah. Locking your fists. You gotta be able to talk to him.
But I will say, though, I mean, as much as I'm starting to maybe have a little bit of starting to be a little aware that it's starting to wear thin. I mean, the crowd tonight. They were in Portland, by the way. I don't think I mentioned the show was live from Portland, Oregon tonight. They were. I mean, when he did the punch in the mat and this business for the Superman punch, and when he did the whoa thing, I mean, they were fucking eating it up. They were really into his big spots. So I mean, that's a good sign. Next was a segment that I didn't get to see because it was cut for the Hulu version, and I really wish I had seen this on the show. I went back and watched it separately because I just had to see it for one particular detail. It was the match was Seth Rollins versus RVD, which Rollins won with his finish, the curb stomp. But then after the match, they had all these birthday gifts for Hulk Hogan up on the stage because the theme of this show is that it's Hulk Hogan's birthday, and they had all these big birthday presents up on the stage under the Titantron, and Dean Ambrose jumps out of one of the presents, Dick Slater style, and attacks Seth Rollins. I thought that was at least the idea for that angle was pretty cool. Yeah.
I think the surprise was not timed correctly.
Yeah.
That's all I could say about that. Is just the surprise of Dean Ambrose coming out was not timed correctly. I think he spent too long looking around the stage and investigating.
Yeah, because it looked like he should have found him, kind of. I mean, he was like right there over where he was.
Oh shit! Yeah, he walked right to it. I'm like, come on.
Yeah, like I think that was probably Seth's fuck up. I think Seth knew what box he was in and just not thinking, just went right for that box instead of, playing it like he didn't know what was going on.
Now it would have been really, really messed up if he came out of one of the small boxes, like popped out like a Jack in the Box, like Dean Ambrose.
Who's that jumping out the sky?
I read news that AAA, I guess the owner down there in AAA, where Alberto Del Rio is going to end up, is saying that once he's been talking to Rey Mysterio, that once his contract's up with WWE, that he's also going to bring Rey Mysterio down to AAA.
I saw that. Just in the last week or so, since Del Rio was fired, and now this rumor about Rey, all of a sudden that new AAA TV show that they're starting up is looking a lot more interesting. Because it's going to be on. Who knows how many people will actually be able to see it? It's going to be on Robert Rodriguez's El Rey network, and who knows how much
for $9.99 pesos.
Exactly. So who knows what the reach of that will be at first, and who knows if the AAA show will even be any good. But it'll be, the thing is, now they have potential because, like you say, Alberto Del Rio, you would think would probably end up there at some point. Rey could end up there, so that's two big stars who people have recently seen in WWE to anchor that show, and it's a different style. They're going to be doing like Mexican wrestling, lucha libre style. So it's an alternative. It could actually be a real alternative to WWE, which hasn't been around for a long time in terms of like something with a national TV show. And it could be really interesting. Yeah, I saw that Rey news thing, that Rey rumor earlier today, and I was like, oh, that would be interesting.
Yeah, I think the potential of being able to watch more AAA product is going to hurt the WWE. I certainly am eager to see what they have available once, if they get a syndicated show here in America. Because we got the Telemundo's TV. I got Dish Network. I think I got like 40 different Spanish channels, so I might be able to find wrestling on there somewhere.
Right. Well, the thing about the El Rey network that makes it interesting for gringos like myself who don't speak Spanish is that it's targeted at a Hispanic audience, but the programming is going to mostly be in English. So it's not going to be like, Telemundo or Univision, where it's all Spanish language programming. It'll be targeted at, Mexican Americans, Hispanics, etc., but it'll be in English. So, there'll be a lot more cultural crossover for that. And that AAA show is something to watch, I think, just to see what happens with it. If you're a wrestling fan, just kind of keep one eye open and kind of glance over there every once in a while to see what's going on with that, because that could actually be pretty interesting. I think that Latin American audience is something that WWE has been trying to take advantage of and exploit for a long time, and they haven't quite figured it out yet. They were hoping Sin Cara would help, and that didn't really work. They were hoping Del Rio and Rey Mysterio would kind of help, and it did a little bit, but not really. So that's
I like Rey, but when it comes when you're floating around in the WWE universe, he's just a very, very small star. He can't hold the company as a champion, because he only really appeals exclusively he appeals to the Latino market, and there's a lot of us who appreciate what he does. But I mean, when you come out of that Latino market, his fan base obviously gets less and less. And the fact that he's been riddled with injury after injury for I don't know how long now, so it's like most of us, unless you mention his name, have forgotten about him.
That's true. That's true. And the other thing is, I mean, even though he has been used as a main eventer in the past, and whenever he is healthy enough to be on TV, they usually put him over as like a former world champion, and like he's a big deal. The fact is, even though he's in his prime and when he's healthy, he's an incredible worker. His style just doesn't really fit with the typical WWE main event style, and it's not even. I mean, it's his size is part of it, but Daniel Bryan is a small guy too. But Daniel Bryan has strikes, he has submissions, he can, he can be credible as like a tough guy, as a guy who would go in and just beat somebody's ass, even though he's small. And Rey, because he's a high flyer and more acrobatic, you don't really believe that Rey Mysterio is going to go in and beat the shit out of somebody.
Yeah, I felt bad for Rey Mysterio when he came into WWE because the man obviously became a huge star in ECW. I mean, he became a great star in ECW when he came to there, and then he went to WCW where his star just cruised up. And the reason because of that is because WCW could match his ability because they had like their own lucha department in WCW, which helped build up Rey Mysterio as that huge marketable talent. When he went over to WWE. It's just not the same fishbowl. There wasn't no lucha department over there. They did not really have anything to really compare to what Rey Mysterio does because they don't really, they're not really in that kind of market. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to promote that kind of thing in the WWE. So Rey suffered because he could not showcase all that he could do because the guys there were American wrestlers.
Yeah. Yeah, he had a really good stretch on SmackDown in like 2002, I think it was, when it was the SmackDown 6 as they were called, or it was Rey and Edge and Eddie and Chavo and Kurt Angle and Chris Benoit were sort of like the 6 top stars on SmackDown at that time, and Rey had a pretty good run.
One American in there.
Yeah, yeah.
One American, and that man can wrestle. He's one of the best wrestlers there is in the world.
Oh,
so it's pretty,
totally.
I'll take that one.
Yeah, we'll take Angle. You guys, you Canadians and Mexicans can have the other guys. We'll take Angle. It's cool. But yeah, so yeah, you're right. I mean, Rey never really found his groove in the WWE, at least not for very long. He had spots here and there where he was doing really well, but yeah, if he goes to AAA and he's a part of that new TV show, that could be something. So moving from Rey Mysterio, one of the most talented wrestlers of the last 20, 25 years, let's go back to Raw and talk about Stephanie McMahon. That is quite a transition. Stephanie McMahon came out to continue her very hot angle with Brie Bella. I would say it's the number 2 match on SummerSlam in terms of how it's been positioned in the build-up. And she brings out a woman who is introduced as Daniel Bryan's physical therapist, Megan Miller, who we've never seen before, who I guess is just an actress that they brought in, or maybe like an indie worker, I'm not sure. And she gets in the ring, and after Steph prompts her a little bit, Megan confesses that she and Daniel Bryan have been having an affair.
Oh my God! No!
Dun dun dun!
Not possible! It can't be. So don't tell me that Daniel's an affair with this bad actress.
Yeah, really.
Don't tell me he's gonna be part of this really, really stupid gimmick, because I just think it's retarded. I'm sorry, I don't mean to lash out and say anything bad about retarded people, but this is what I mean by that's retarded. It's like if I said that's gay. That's gay. That's stupid. I'm sorry, Brian, you have to go through with this.
I mean, I think the direction that they're going with it is that Steph is just making it up and Megan is just playing along or has been paid off. But whichever way they go, it's a stupid idea, and it doesn't help the Brie versus Steph the Brie versus Steph. This is actually really the first a development in the Brie versus Steph feud that I would say is a big misstep. I mean, up until this point, they've been doing pretty good with it, but now all of a sudden it's like they're a week away from the big match, and for some reason they thought they needed to throw this new wrinkle in right before the big show, and it's this bullshit about this soap opera drama about the Bryan Bella marriage and how Bryan's having an affair supposedly with his physical therapist. It's like, oh God, come on. And of course, Brie comes out and ends up slapping Megan, and which is a plot point for later. And then she turns around and fucking tackles Steph, and they have another pull-apart brawl. And the crowd seems hot for that part, but everything up to that point, the crowd just does not give a shit about. They boo it. They chant what? They chant no. I mean, the crowd in Portland did not give a shit about any of this up until when it got physical between Brie and Steph. Yeah, I'm not sure I don't know whose idea this was, but this was not a good idea.
They've done such a careful job at painting Daniel Bryan as this good guy that he doesn't do anything wrong. He eats correctly, and
right.
He don't have. I mean, he's got a great relationship with Brie. It's like, and then all of a sudden you want to throw this little, a wrench in the program, and I wouldn't buy it, but with a dollar, I would not buy that storyline. No way, because I just don't get it. Plus, yeah, I don't feel like that whole response or that whole production was anywhere near authentic. It did not feel real to me, like it could possibly be a legitimate confession from someone who just wasn't just pulling off some really bad acting. I think TNA did it better. The only downfall they had was that the chick was discovered as being an actress.
Right, which is like a typical TNA mistake. You try to put it over as like, oh no, this isn't just some wrestling show. This is real. Oh well, okay, yeah, she has an IMDb page. Yeah, a lot of people compared it to the Claire Lynch angle, the AJ Styles Claire Lynch angle from TNA, and I can't imagine if you're a creative writer for WWE that you don't want people to accuse you of being inspired by TNA. I don't think.
If you're not a wrestler or an owner, women don't belong in wrestling.
But this isn't wrestling, Doc. This is sports entertainment.
You have to constantly keep reminding me of this shit.
Don't you remember? Don't you? Vince McMahon tells that story over and over again on all the documentaries about, how when Ted Turner bought Jim Crockett Promotions, how he called Vince and he was like, guess what, Vince? I'm in the wrestling business. And that's my Ted Turner. I happen to think it's very good. And then,
says, that's great, Ted. I'm in the wrestling business.
Vince said, I'm in the entertainment business.
I'm in the entertainment business.
And I'm like,
thanks for correcting me.
And I'm like, okay, just let's think about this, because Vince says this like he comes out looking like the cool guy in the story. I'm like, okay, Ted Turner, the guy who owns TBS and TNT, the head of Turner Broadcasting, you are Vince McMahon. All you've ever been is a wrestling promoter, and you're telling him that you're in the entertainment business, and he's in the wrestling business. It's such a I don't know. I mean, I have a lot of respect for Vince, but sometimes, he'll say something like that just seems so, like he seems to lack such a crucial degree of self-awareness. It's like, dude, you're a wrestling promoter. Ted Turner was like an entertainment mogul who happened to own a wrestling company. All you have ever been is a wrestling promoter. How can you tell that guy that you're in the entertainment business? It makes no sense to me at all.
Which is why they keep making movies, because they want to keep trying to cross that threshold into the mainstream media, which they've been really unable to do anywhere else, and still it's a failure. They haven't been able to do it with any of their films. Nothing out of their company has been good when it comes to film production.
No, it really hasn't. Even the stuff that they buy from other companies, that they just release, because a lot of their recent films have been produced by other production companies, and WWE will just sort of, jump on board to distribute it. And like the one they just released, Oculus. I mean, that's that kind of a deal. And nobody really gives a shit about any of them. And when they have these financials that go down the toilet, and they talk about having to make all these cuts and trim the budget back, how they haven't just thrown in the towel on that film division is, you know, with the company losing money like this, like, well, hey, I'll tell you how we can save a shit ton of money. We'll shit can the fucking film division. It was a nice experiment. We tried for about 10 years. It didn't work, you know.
Yeah, you certainly aren't going to make any money on See No Evil 2 except for DVD sales. You're not going to see any money on Hornswoggle's version of Leprechaun except for DVD sales. Now, granted, I love the Scooby-Doo one. That one I enjoyed.
You know, I haven't watched that one, but everybody says that. Almost every wrestling fan that I've seen write a review of that movie has said that that's like the best one of all the WWE movie projects of the last couple of years. That actually the Scooby-Doo one was like the best one. So I'll have to check that out at some point.
I think fans like to see would love to see more animated stuff like that, because I love the Slam City. They just were releasing new episodes on the network of Slam City, so I wanted to go over and check that out. I'm a huge fan of the old Hulk Hogan's Rock and Wrestling cartoon.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I own a pirated version of that over on DVD. But I just think it's something that fans enjoy. They want to see their stars, but not as a movie star, but maybe as an animated film star. I think that actually pulls in more of an adult core base, which they want to see it because they're fans of those wrestlers and they want to see them in a different aspect. It also pulls in more kids because kids love cartoons.
Totally, yeah. I'm surprised they haven't done more cartoon stuff, actually, because, I mean, yeah, I remember that Hulk Hogan's, Rock and Wrestling cartoon. And, I mean, it was cheap as shit. It wasn't like a very expensively made cartoon, but, it was on, and it appealed to the younger kids in the audience. I can't imagine why they wouldn't try to do something like that. I mean, as long as you're going to be throwing money down a hole with a film division, Okay, so the next segment on Raw was another one that was cut from the Hulu version, which I'm sorry I didn't get to see this one because it sounds like it was a really terrific match, the Swagger versus Cesaro match, which Swagger won via submission. The reports are that it was a good match, but I haven't watched it. What did you think of it?
Yeah, I mean, they're really pushing Jack Swagger. They're not. Cesaro definitely did his thing in the ring there with Jack Swagger to make Jack Swagger look like he can take a little bit of a beating. He's definitely going to have to do that with Rusev. So Cesaro is a good opponent for him to face off against and for a good warm up. But on the flip side, Cesaro needs to get a couple wins here real soon, because it seems like his flames has dimmed a little bit here in the WWE. Maybe it is that rotation thing, I mean, sometimes you get near the top, but then you come back around, Yeah. But sometimes the Ferris wheel will stop at the top, and you get to enjoy it for a while. But for the most part, it just goes around. I think Cesaro's like near the bottom, right? Somewhere near the bottom right now as it goes around.
Yeah. I hope he comes back around to the top, though, because I hear that he has friends in the company. I mean, I know John Cena really likes him, so you would think that would bode well for him. And he's awesome. I mean, he's incredible in the ring, and you would think that they would have something more for that guy than just being another guy on the show to put people over and have good matches, and hopefully that's coming for him, because because let's face it, they could use a fresh face on top. And whether it's as a babyface or as a heel, they could use a new guy on top, because Daniel Bryan's out, and Roman Reigns is coming, but he's not there yet, and Roman Reigns isn't anywhere close to Cesaro in the ring. So it'd be nice to have Cesaro up there too. Well, next is this Bray Wyatt versus Chris Jericho pre-taped sit-down interview, and there was an awkward moment at the beginning of it that kind of gives the whole thing away as not only fake, but as poorly blocked, poorly planned out, because Michael Cole is there supposedly to conduct an interview with Bray and Chris, but he doesn't have a chair. He's just, I guess, theoretically, if he had not been sent away, he was just going to stand there while the other two guys were sitting, which would have seemed really weird and really awkward. But of course, Bray Wyatt tells him to get out, that it's just going to be between him and Jericho. And then Bray cuts this kind of spooky promo about Chris Jericho, never being able to live up to his father's expectations and calling himself a savior. And Bray says that he learned that the only way you can truly save people is to hurt them. And it's a good promo from Bray. It's his usual sort of spooky Wyatt family thing. And then Jericho comes back at him and says that he's not a savior, he's a survivor. And at SummerSlam, he's going to follow the buzzards and he's going to shove them down Bray Wyatt's throat. And I didn't have a problem with this really, but I felt like it might have been better if they had just done this in the ring in front of the live crowd. I feel like that's something, because both of these guys are so good on a microphone, and that's something they haven't really taken advantage of, in this feud. You would think, like, have Bray Wyatt in the ring giving a promo and have Chris Jericho come down. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of that all the time, but have Chris come out and grab a microphone and have them face off in the ring and have a promo together in front of the crowd.
All I know is if you put me in a room with the guy that I'm fighting with, to sit down and talk with him, and then the person who is like the mediator between the two gets up and leaves, and Bray Wyatt opens up with talking about me and my father, I would have already jumped up out of my chair and knocked him out of his seat. Simply because there's already enough feud, there's already enough fuel in this fire, and if you would have talked about my family and the love of my father, then we're really gonna go at it again. Nothing's holding me back from this.
Yeah, I had that thought too. Like, what is keeping them from just going at each other? I mean, are they just being polite? Like, on the one hand, they're supposed to hate each other. But on the other hand, they'll get dressed like Jericho was wearing a suit and tie, and they'll just sit like 5 feet apart from each other in chairs and just talk to it. It did, that part felt a little weird too. You're right.
Well, if history repeats itself, Bray's just that big bully in the schoolyard. He runs, he goats you and tries to get your dander up, and he's got his big muscle behind him. But when push comes to shove, he gets his ass kicked every time. But he's still the bully because he's got the muscle.
Yeah, I'll say the same thing I said last week. I really hope that it's a good match, and I hope that Bray wins, and that it looks good winning, that it's not just like a fluke. I mean, I think Jericho has said he's going to be around for next month's pay-per-view as well, and then his deal is up and he's going away for a while again. So I guess, unless they're going to give Jericho like a fresh match for 1 month, I guess I would bet that they're going to do Bray Wyatt versus Jericho again in September. So I hope that they find a way to extend it without making Bray look like a punk, because so far that's kind of what they've done. They made Bray look like a punk. I mean, he's got a big mouth and he talks all scary, but he loses the match. So he needs to win this match. Like, SummerSlam is the big show.
I think he needs to destroy Chris Jericho, and we need to push the fact that he has destroyed Chris Jericho, especially if Chris Jericho is leaving again in another month. To really push Bray over the top, I think we need to deliver not just a win in his column, but a literal devastation of the character of Chris Jericho on his way out the door, and then he can use that as bragging rights. But you got to make that look really good, though.
Yeah, that's what I'd like to see. And you know what? It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to do that 2 months in a row. Mm-hmm. Have Bray win the SummerSlam match and have Jericho come back and say, "Okay, you got me last night. I got you last month. Let's hook it up one more time in September and see who the better man really is," and then have Bray fucking kill him again. Mm-hmm. I mean, that would really rehabilitate, or do a lot to rehabilitate, Bray Wyatt, because that's the one thing that he needs to do, is to start winning matches and start looking impressive in the ring and looking like a winner. And if he went over Chris Jericho really, really strong 2 months in a row and 2 big pay-per-view matches consecutively, that would be a big help. I don't know if that's what they're doing or not. I really don't know what they're doing with Bray lately. I mean, this 6 months ago, it seemed like he was going to be one of their top guys over the summer, and the Jericho thing, even though it started out really promising, is just kind of, so.
If he keeps at this, the only thing he's going to be good for in the next 10 years is commentating.
Yeah, exactly. He'll be the color guy on NXT, like poor fucking Albert, waiting to get released. That's somebody who's worrying about his job, I'm sure. Fucking Tensai. a.k.a. Jason Albert, the occasional color commentator on NXT. He's got, every time they have a round of cuts, he's got to be like, oh, thank God. Because his number's coming. If they keep cutting the talent roster like this, his number's coming soon. So next is a Divas match, AJ Lee versus Eva Marie. The match really doesn't hardly even get started until Paige comes out with her entrance, her music and everything, and she skips around the ring, AJ style. AJ, because for this segment, AJ is an idiot, gets distracted by Paige and gets rolled up, and Eva Marie actually gets the win. She rolls up the Divas champion and pins her clean 1-2-3 in the ring. And then after the match, Paige taunts AJ on the microphone and reads her like a poem, and AJ gets pissed off, and she takes it out on Eva Marie and beats Eva Marie's ass at ringside. And then kind of cheers up and skips away. So there you go. There's your final Raw push for the Divas title match, I guess.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the actual match when we can get to it, because everything between the last match and this match has been no good. So
yeah,
I can't wait to actually see the match, because I can finally see something worthwhile between these two women.
Yeah, exactly. They can both wrestle. They've both shown an ability. Paige not so much on Raw, but when she was in NXT, and AJ definitely on Raw, they've both shown an ability to get over through their wrestling, to have matches that the fans care about, so that they're not just getting cheered because they come out in like skimpy outfits or they prance around or they look pretty, whatever. I mean, they've actually been able to have good matches. So let's, let them have a good match, because you're right, the build-up hasn't really been all that great. It's been confusing and kind of, it just doesn't serve either performer. I mean, I do think that Paige works better as a heel, but I don't think she works ideally as this kind of a heel. I mean, she's more like, she should be the pissed off, fucking ass kicker.
Yeah, if she's playing the psychopathic stalker, then you've done it before, and I don't think anybody can really do it better than Mickie James did.
Yeah, you're right. Paige doesn't really strike me as that type. Well, and the other thing is, that's why I say it's confusing, is because is Paige really stalking AJ, or is she just doing that like facetiously, just to make fun of AJ or to taunt her? It seems like they can't decide whether Paige is really like hung up on AJ, or if she's just doing this to fuck with her. This is where it would help if they had announcers that were allowed to actually call the match, to actually talk about what was going on screen at that moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the way AJ's responding, obviously, she's not buying Paige's bullshit, and she's not putting up with Paige's bullshit. So what's up with all Paige's bullshit? It can't be a mental mind fuck on her behalf, because Paige isn't buying it. So what are you trying to accomplish? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's just another. It's when they if they decide to save money by cutting the film division, they should cut most of the writers too. They could save a shitload of money just cutting the writers, because it seems like the downfall of WWE creative, more often than not, is that they make shit more complicated than it needs to be. They forget that they're writing pro wrestling. They're not writing, high drama. They're not writing for the fucking wire. Mm-hmm. They're writing pro wrestling, and there's nothing wrong with that. But pro wrestling does best with simple storylines. If you want to write something with really rich, deep, complicated character development, you should not be writing pro wrestling. That is not the place for it. Pro wrestling, the storyline should be simple and just there to give some context to the matches, so you have more of a reason to care about why these people are fighting. Mm-hmm. And the more they make it complicated, the more they shoot themselves in the foot.
As simple as Rusev and Jack Swagger. Hey, I'm from the U.S. Fuck you, I'm from Russia. Let's fight. All right, let's fight.
Exactly. I think that's one of the reasons why that's been so well received by the fans. It's cheap as hell. I mean, it's just patriotic, USA versus Russia. But it works because it's simple, because you know who Jack is, you know who Rusev is, you know why they don't like each other, you know who's the good guy and who's the bad guy. And you want to see the good guy kick the bad guy's ass. Mm-hmm. It's not fucking complicated. And it works. I mean, Jack Swagger's never been this over. Ever. Yeah, I don't know. Um, Someday they'll hire us to book the shows, Doc. Uh, or
What
they'll
can
go out of business.
intrigue?
Or they'll just go out of business.
Anybody in the WWE that still actually is employed and their job is not in danger, if you come across this on YouTube, feel free to contact either Steve Shives and on YouTube. You can contact me at Boar's Bill on YouTube. So we'd love to hear from you. Hey, just make our lives happy. That's all. We're not greedy sons of bitches or anything like that.
No,
We don't live up north, and we weren't born with silver spoons or in the great state of Connecticut.
we will, believe me, we will work cheap. You guys, you're worried about saving money and cutting costs. We will work so cheap, you have no idea. But we will want some money. I mean,
Yes.
there will be some money involved, but it just won't be a lot compared to maybe what you're used to paying. So we'll talk. Next, John Cena comes out, and I couldn't help but notice that John Cena's T-shirt is Hulk Hogan colors. It's a red and yellow T-shirt. But he comes out to give his response to Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar from earlier. And this was an interesting promo for me because it started out like a shitty John Cena promo, but then it turned into a really good John Cena promo. I mean, it started out like he was, he did a Paul Heyman impression, and I was watching it going, oh, Jesus. He's going to, they're going to do this. He's going to be all jokey and silly, and it's going to completely kill the match. But then he turned it around. He got more serious, and he got more hyped up and passionate. And by the end of it, I thought it was actually pretty good. He called because earlier in the show in his promo, Paul Heyman had brought up the fact that Brock has previously been afflicted with diverticulitis. And that was the excuse that he used for why Cena beat Brock in their last match 2 years ago. He said that was Brock at 50%, and that's why John Cena was able to just barely beat him.
Which I love that they actually even mentioned that.
Yeah.
Great that they mentioned that John Cena's beat me.
Yeah, I agree, because I think that's, you kind of have to do that, which doesn't mean that they necessarily would have, but I'm glad that they did. So Cena speculates that because he calls out Brock and Brock doesn't come out. So Cena says maybe it's not diverticulitis that Brock has. Maybe he's got a case of the punk bitchitis. And the crowd likes that because when Cena swears, they like that because Cena doesn't swear very much because he's a good guy. And but yeah, so I thought it turned out to be a pretty good promo from Cena. What did you think of that?
Yeah, I agree with you. He showed a lot of heart. I love how he threw out all the different little chants that he gets from time to time, and it just seemed like the ones that were positive, the fans weren't there for him, and then every time the one that was negative toward him, the fans jumped on board because that's the fun one. And honestly, no, I don't think there are that many Cena haters in the audience. It's just to hate on him when he's still the company good guy is fun to do because you could still. You like him, but you would like to see something different out of John Cena. It has been the same thing, and he brought that up of when you're going to turn heel.
Yeah, and he kind of worked it into the match because he didn't say he was going to turn heel, obviously, but he said that he was going to basically be like he was going to show like an uglier side. He was going to be as vicious and brutal when he's fighting Brock Lesnar. So yeah, I thought it was a good promo.
I guarantee he's going to throw the ring steps then.
That's what I said.
That's part of his brutal side.
That's what I said. I wrote that in my notes. I said when he said, you're going to see a kind of John Cena that you've never seen before. I wrote in my notes, steps will be thrown. He's throwing the steps. He's totally throwing the steps during this match with Brock. Yeah. So yeah, I thought it was a good promo. I think it's at least going to be a hot match. Hopefully it'll be a good match. Their match at Extreme Rules a couple years ago was pretty good, so hopefully it'll be a good match. They seem to match up pretty well. Next, Brie Bella came out, and they had set up previously, earlier in the night when Steph came out, they had set up that Steph and Brie were going to actually have their SummerSlam match tonight. So Brie comes out to wrestle, ready, dressed in her gear, ready to wrestle. And Steph comes out not dressed to wrestle, and instead introduces some local policemen who arrest Brie for slapping Megan earlier in the show. So turnabout is fair play. And Steph, who was arrested a few weeks ago, now arrests Brie. I didn't really think this was all that great either. I feel like it was too soon to be doing like the reverse of the arrest angle.
I think if you enter the ring, if you enter the ring, you're under. It's at your own peril. It's like if you held your business meeting in the middle of the ocean. You might get bit by a shark. You do not come up into a wrestling ring, because if you do, you might just get like hit over the head with a steel chair. It might just happen. I think it was silly that she was a participant in the ring. The action happened in the ring. That there was no cause for this arrest. But looking at the picture of her arrest here, and Brie's got a cute little what, I didn't do anything, but I can guarantee you, I could bounce a quarter off those abs.
Yes.
Ow.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't see how it helps the match. I mean, I want to see one of the cool things about the Brie versus Steph match that I think that they've done well up until this week is they made you want to see Brie kick Stephanie's ass. Mm-hmm. You wanted to see Brie get her revenge in a physical way in the ring. And this week wasn't really about that. This week was about, supposedly her husband's cheating on her, and then she gets arrested. There's all this extraneous bullshit that has nothing to do with people getting in the ring and kicking each other's asses, and that's what I watch wrestling for. And that's I can't believe
Stephanie signed off on this shit. She's like one of the key players in this whole storyline, and she is like, whenever, and the writers like, this is what we have for you. If the writers wrote anything, if this came out of the mind of Stephanie, I wagged my finger at her and said, you should know better, damn it. But if these writers wrote for you, you should be wagging your finger at them and saying you're fired. I cannot believe that that this whole storyline tonight, the two different angles we were going to do, you fudged up, and we went out there and looked like asses.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think any time that you have wrestlers resorting to non-wrestling to settle their differences, it weakens the wrestlers, and I think it weakens the eventual match. It's the build. I love personal issues. I love when they book a feud so that the two participants, whether they're guys or girls, it doesn't matter, where there's real bad blood, there's animosity, they really want to just really hurt each other. But then when they're getting each other arrested, or they're talking about taking each other to court, or they're doing all, or they put up like funny pictures of the other person on the Titantron, like all of that stuff just totally dilutes the match. I mean, if you're like, if there's a guy that you really hate and you want to kick this guy's ass, you want to fucking hurt this guy, and you know that in a week you're going to have an officially sanctioned sporting event, a fight contest where you will be able to legally kick this guy's ass. What are you gonna do the week before? Are you gonna come up with some bullshit excuse to take him to court? Are you gonna make like funny pictures of him to make fun of him? I mean, it just makes no sense at all, and it just doesn't help the match at all.
Mine is babality.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know, but it still seems like Steph versus Brie is the number 2 match on the show. I mean, they didn't kill it all the way. It still seems like it's going to be a pretty hot match. I would expect there to be a pretty good crowd response to it when it happens. So, because when they did get physical, the crowd was all over that. They don't
get to see Steph get physical too often, so everybody's really excited to see her go at it. And don't get too set on it, because besides the fact that she has showed you that she can do a pedigree, which, okay, that's a move, but she's already showed you that she can do it.
Right.
You're not going to get much more than what you've already seen. The rest is going to just be kind of bullshit around the ring. I just don't see them pulling off anything special in this match, but I definitely want to see this match.
Yeah, it's a good example of not every match has to be a 5-star classic. I mean, you still want to see the match, even though it's probably not going to be a very good match, but you still want to see the match. Mm-hmm. That's something that I think a lot of our fellow internet wrestling fans kind of lose sight of. Like you watch, you want every match to be like a 5-star classic, and the ones that aren't 5-star classics, in fact, even some of the ones that are downright terrible, can still make you want to see them. you know. And this is, I think, is going to be an example of that. It is certainly not going to be a classic match in terms of the work, but I still am really anxious to see it and to see what happens. Next, another segment that was cut from the Hulu version that I didn't get to see, Dolph Ziggler versus Heath Slater. Heath Slater's winning streak continues.
Yay! He's a one-man band!
He beat Dolph Ziggler by countout after The Miz distracted Ziggler. So AJ wasn't the only stupid one this week. Dolph was stupid too because he got distracted and lost a match because somebody was fucking around on the outside. So yeah, there you go. They build up to Dolph versus Miz for the Intercontinental title at SummerSlam, and Heath Slater gets to win another match. So good for Heath.
I definitely love that Heath got another win here. I think that there was a little bit of rejoicing in the crowd that he won 2 in a row. The announcers definitely put it over that he won 2 in a row, and I think this is definitely a storyline out of all the years and bullshit that Heath Slater has had to put up with since he's come to WWE. Is like just to see it's kind of put him in that turnaround Barry Horowitz position. You know, like all of a sudden he starts winning matches.
Yeah, and you're right. It's people are kind of getting behind him because he's like I guess sort of how they've done with Dolph as well. I mean, he's a guy who is obviously a really talented guy and has a lot of passion for his job and seems like he wants to go out there and do his best and have a good time and get over and give the people their money's worth. And, you know, when they finally start using him for something, you know, people notice that. Wrestling fans are smart. Wrestling fans notice shit like that. If one of their guys that they can tell is really talented who has been shit on constantly all of a sudden starts get a little momentum behind him, you know, they notice that and they appreciate that. And that seems to be the case the last couple weeks anyway with Heath Slater. So hopefully it lasts a little while and they don't send him back to fucking job duty too soon. Although, let's face it, that's coming eventually. I mean, next was Randy Orton versus Sheamus. This was an interesting match because Randy Orton is supposed to be a heel, but he worked this match pretty much like a babyface and got a babyface reaction. The crowd was bored for a lot of it, but the crowd got back into it when Orton took over. Orton is the heel. Took over on Sheamus. I don't know if they're just sick of Sheamus or what, or if they just decided to start cheering for Randy Orton. But after Orton took over leading into the finish, the crowd actually kind of got into the match. And they had a really good finish where Sheamus was up on the top rope and it looked like he was going for like a diving shoulder block or something. And Orton turned it into the RKO on the way down and pinned him after that. So it was a really good finish. And afterwards, the crowd gives Orton a nice, sounds like a babyface pop, which he reacted to like a babyface, like getting up in the turnbuckle and doing his pose and, you know, talking to the crowd and doing this business. Like, it seemed like he wrestled this match and took the win like a good guy, not like a bad guy. I thought that was interesting.
I mean, I'm not over the top with Sheamus anymore. You know, it just seems like he comes out there, he's doing the same shtick, he goes through the same motions, he does the same signature moves. There's just nothing special. There's nothing special to me about Sheamus from one match to the other. It just seems like a copy print of what his ability is. You know, you're going to see the 10 forearms there. It just he's so predictable. And what really makes me mad, and I'm not sure if unless they've announced something, and I might be missing it, but is there a championship, United States Championship match at SummerSlam? Does Sheamus have anything to do?
No, I don't think so. There's nothing announced.
What about the Intercontinental title?
Yeah, Intercontinental is going to be Miz versus Dolph.
Oh yeah, that's right.
But they haven't announced anything. I don't think the U.S. title is going to be on there at all, and I don't think Sheamus has. And well, I'll tell you what I bet what's going to happen is Sheamus is going to be one of the lumberjacks for the lumberjack match between Ambrose and Rollins. That's what I bet is going to be Sheamus's role on the show as the United States champion.
Well, you're working a pay-per-view and you're just going to be a lumberjack, all right.
Yeah, it's an easy night, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you get to get paid to be on pay-per-view, and you just have to roll a guy back in the ring. You know. Yeah, I'll tell you what though about Sheamus. Sheamus is who I would be looking at as a cautionary tale if I were in WWE, as they continue to build Roman Reigns, because if they're not careful, Roman Reigns could end up not as the next John Cena, but as the next Sheamus.
Mm-hmm.
Because the thing with Sheamus is, nothing Sheamus does is bad, but Sheamus does, like you just said, the same thing every time. And he hits his marks and he does what he's supposed to do. But, you know, you look at a guy like Daniel Bryan or a guy like CM Punk. When they got that spotlight, they took that spotlight and did everything they could with it. They grabbed the microphone and didn't want to give it up. They wanted to make sure that their match was the best match on the show. And they thought to themselves, and I know it's with CM Punk, I know for a fact that he thought this because he's actually said this, you know, I'm going to make you put me in the main event. I mean, I deserve to be the top guy in this company, and I'm going to be so fucking good that you're not going to have any choice but to push me. And if you give me this much of a chance, I'm going to make this much out of it. And Sheamus just doesn't seem like that kind of a guy. If you give Sheamus a 5-minute TV match, he'll be like, oh, thanks a lot. And he'll go out and he'll give you like a good solid 5 minutes, and then he'll go back and take a shower and go back to the hotel, and that'll be it. You know? And I hope that Roman Reigns doesn't turn out to be that type of guy, or else, you know, I mean, they've already got a Sheamus. They don't need two Sheamuses. You know?
That would be quite a Sheamus.
Yes. Oh, what a Sheamus. He had such potential. Such a Sheamus.
But this match, I thought was really good. It just felt like, you know, that it's in my mind now. Just the whole time I'm watching it, going deja vu, deja vu, deja vu. Like, you know, I've seen it so many times before. You know, that I'm not seeing any except for, you know, the little bit of Twilight Zone bullshit with Randy Orton during that match. It just it just felt like something, you know, I've seen before.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is like that you kind of sort of get that with John Cena sometimes too, but Cena at least will bust out something new every once in a while to sort of get you interested and keep you guessing. But Sheamus hasn't done that for a long time. Ever since Sheamus added a couple of moves to his arsenal when he turned babyface the last time, which has been like 2 years ago now. That's when he started doing like the chest beating against the ropes, and I think he added a couple of more big like offensive moves. But he hasn't really freshened up his matches since then. It's been a long time, and it does feel like it's just the same old shit. And he's not a great promo. He comes out and he says what they tell him to say. I mean, does anybody buy a ticket to see Sheamus? I guess some of the kids do, maybe, because he's a big guy and he has a distinctive look and he's like a fucking human cartoon character with his big red hair and his super white body. But I mean, does anybody over the age of 10 buy a ticket to see Sheamus? You know,
I'd rather have him as that kick-ass heel, that, you know, that old Irish kicking your ass because you just looked at me wrong, you little bastard. I'm coming to kick your little fucking ass attitude. You know, that's what we need from Sheamus. I think that works. You know, it just, some people are stuck in better heel land. Randy Orton's one of those guys. Better heel. Sheamus, better heel.
Yeah.
You know?
I think so.
Yeah, you put him as baby faces and boring.
He needs to stop smiling. You know, Sheamus. You have nice teeth. Stop smiling. Or, you know, smile right before you punch a guy in the fucking face. You know, like he's so happy. He's always so happy.
And your hair is not that red.
Yeah, so, you know. Anyway, now the main event of the show was Hulk Hogan's birthday party. That was the main event of the show. So Mean Gene was out. It was nice to see Mean Gene again outside of Legend's house. Mean Gene was in the ring. Jimmy Hart was there as well. Jimmy Hart didn't do anything, but he was there. Nice to see Jimmy Hart. And out comes Hulk Hogan. They play Real American. The crowd goes crazy. Everybody's happy to see Hulkster, you know. And the entire roster pretty much is on the stage to celebrate Hogan's birthday. And they play a video package about Hogan's career and his life set to the tune of the original Bob Dylan version of Forever Young, which is a really nice song. And it was a really corny video package, but it was nice. You know, if you're an old school wrestling fan and you remember being a Hulkamaniac when you were like 5 or 10 years old, I mean, it was nice. You know, they went through all of like the big moments in his career. I thought it was all right. It was corny, but it was good. And then Hogan gets into Hulkster mode for his promo. You know something, brother? And he shills the WWE Network. He mentions $9.99. which is something that old school Hulkster would totally have done. And
well, you had to do it, dude, because they were in Portland, Oregon, brother.
Yeah, he did. He named the hometown, right? So he got that. He plugged the network. It's like, damn, you're Hulk Hogan. But the people.
Let me tell you something, Mean Gene. You know, all that, bam, bam. You know, yeah. right on cue.
You know something, dude. Yeah. You know, speaking of Hogan, I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent, but speaking of Hogan, I watched the Saturday Night's Main Event recently where the Mega Powers broke up, where Hogan spends like the whole match. It's Hogan and Savage versus the Twin Towers, Boss Man and Akeem, and the lovely Elizabeth gets injured, and Hogan takes her back to the first aid room and leaves Macho Man to get fucking killed in the ring because he's just that great of a guy. And the acting, oh God, Hulk Hogan's acting is so fucking terrible because they stay with him and Liz like in the first aid room while the doctor is examining her, and Hogan's acting choice is to just never shut up. He's kneeling by the bed and he's holding Liz's hand and he's just talking the whole time and he's saying just meaningless shit like, oh, Randy didn't mean it, Liz, he didn't, Randy, sorry, oh Doc, please help her, oh Doc, is she breathing? It's like he says this. Yeah, it's like, God, just somebody tell him to shut up. You don't have to talk every second. Just shut up. Just look worried, you know. But anyway,
that was the one where Macho Man went flying out of the ring and knocked Elizabeth over, and I thought that looked spectacular. One of the greatest bumps ever. And like when Randy smashed into Elizabeth there. So.
Oh, totally, yeah. And then they had that great backstage when the match is finally over and Macho Man goes back there and confronts Hogan. They have that fucking awesome breakup promo where, you know, that's where Macho tells him, you've got jealous eyes. Your eyes are lusted for Elizabeth. Yeah. It's like, oh God, it's so fucking great. And he lays him out with the title and kicks his ass and fucking, you know, Brutus the Barber Beefcake comes in. He's like, get Savage out of here. And Macho Man says, I'm leaving because I want to leave. Oh God, they don't do it like that anymore. So anyway, so they bring out a bunch of old timers for Hogan's birthday, and Ric Flair was there. Paul Orndorff was there, which was cool. Paul Orndorff came out in one of the old Mr. Wonderful robes, and he has a big old Wyatt Earp mustache now. Roddy Piper came out in basically his hometown. He lives near Portland, and that was cool. He got a nice hometown reaction. The Outsiders, Nash and Hall came out, which was cool because when they do these old timers things, they usually don't bring like Attitude Era guys out. It's usually all the guys from the 80s like Sergeant Slaughter and Pat Patterson and stuff. But yeah, they brought out Nash and Hall, which was cool. And Hall even did the survey from the NWO, which was cool. I thought that was a nice throwback because he hasn't done that for a long time. And if you're doing old timers shit, you might as well let him do that. And he does the survey, says, who came here to see Hulk Hogan in the red and yellow, and who came here to see Hulk Hogan in the black and white of the NWO? And of course, the NWO wins the survey, like the NWO always did. And Hogan rips the shirt, and there's an NWO shirt on underneath. I thought that whole thing was great. And then they start singing Happy Birthday. But here comes Brock Lesnar to interrupt the birthday party. And Brock stares down all of the legends one at a time. Like he goes from one to the next and like gets in their face and just kind of stares them down. And he finishes with Hogan, and Heyman asks Hogan, what you gonna do? And then Brock takes the mic and says to Hogan, party's over, Grandpa. And then John Cena runs in, and they do like a face-off, and Cena's like ready to go, and he's like, come on, Brock, come on. And Brock just smiles and walks out. I thought the whole thing was great. I thought it was a really good finish to the show. What did you think?
I also agree with you. I thought it was really good. They came out there and faced off against all those guys, got in Hogan's face, called him Grandpa. I thought he was a little bit rough with Piper. He actually gave him a little shove with his shoulders. And
yeah.
Go watch that shit, Brock, because he's got like bad hips.
That's true.
I love Mr. Wonderful's mustache, and it does look great. Your theme song is stupid, and the robe just doesn't look right on you anymore. I don't know why you had to actually come down in the robe. Maybe it on, but I don't know if it had to be tied up or anything like that. A great spot there, seeing Hogan tie up with Brock Lesnar, but just because you've seen these two eyeball each other doesn't mean that they should ever wrestle. So if you're watching this, anybody in the WWE creative, don't even freaking think about it. You know?
Oh God, no. Yeah, if Hogan ever shows up and says, "I think I got one more match in me, brother," you tell him no, thank you. Okay. I mean, that's not a good idea. That's not a, he was. It was a bad idea 10 years ago when they did it. Now it's 10 years later. You should not have Hogan wrestling at all. So yeah, that was the go home show for SummerSlam. SummerSlam is this Sunday live on pay-per-view and of course on the WWE Network for only $9.99. And let's go through our predictions here, Doc. Let's run down the card as announced and call some winners and losers, and then next week we'll see how many we got right and how many we got wrong here. So I don't know what order the show is going to be presented in, but I just have it in an order that makes sense to me. So we'll see how we do here. First, let's call the lumberjack match between Dean Ambrose and Money in the Bank winner Seth Rollins. This is one I could probably go either way, but I called that Dean Ambrose is going to win this one. What do you think?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm gonna say that time for Dean to win one. He's really been doing a couple things here the last couple of weeks to get the crowd in his favor. So we should keep that spotlight on him and give him a win here in the lumberjack match. So it will be interesting to see where they go with that because he got all those extra bodies down there. So like Dean has said, there's no love for either one of those guys. So this match is going to be. I think this match is going to be pretty good. I don't think it could be good as it could possibly be, but that's good because it's going to limit them from leaving the ring. I think these guys have a lot of potential once they start leaving the ring to pull off some fascinating shit. So confiding them inside the ring by giving a lumberjack match holds more for down the road when they go at it again.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good point. There's been some question online as to why would they do the lumberjack gimmick, but clearly they want to push this at least for one more match, I would think. You wouldn't think the lumberjack match is going to be the big blow-off because it's their first match, really. So yeah, and that is a perfect excuse. You keep them in the ring for this one with the lumberjacks, and then next month you can do the crazy brawl that clearly it's been building to because that's Dean's whole thing. He attacks him outside the ring. He fucking makes his life miserable doing crazy shit outside the ring. So obviously, hopefully, if they book it so that it makes sense, it'll end up with some kind of crazy brawl. Next, the Intercontinental title match, The Miz versus Dolph Ziggler. I call The Miz for this one, although my heart wishes that Dolph Ziggler would win, just because I would like to see Dolph get that big win. But I think they're probably going to keep it on The Miz. What do you say?
Yeah, The Miz is extremely annoying right now.
Yeah.
Or I like to call him Johnny Cage, but damn it, this is a tough one for me because I do see that they're going to keep the belt on. I'm gonna have to go with you. I think The Miz is actually going to keep the belt there because it's working right now. It works.
Yeah, and although I do think you mentioned the Johnny Cage thing, I do think they're really missing the boat by not having when Miz wins a match to have the announcer go Miz wins.
He's got a filter on his camera. That's not on his mic. That's not actually fair. He can get understood.
Miz wins
in a world.
Oh shit! Yeah. So next, let's talk about this Divas title match here. AJ, the champion, the Divas champion versus Paige. This is another one, kind of like the last one, the Intercontinental title match, where it's hard to call just because they don't really seem to be going any particular direction with it. But I call this one for AJ. I figure AJ will keep the title. She just came back. What do you say?
I'm going with Paige on this one.
Okay.
Just to be different, because I don't care which one holds it. They're both batshit crazy is the way the WWE paint them. So
yeah,
I don't really care which batshit crazy woman wears the actual title. So I'm going with Paige just to be different.
Yeah, and I mean the feud's not about the title anyway. I mean, you'd think it would be because Paige lost the title to AJ and she was pissed off about it at first, but now it seems like it's mostly just about Paige messing with AJ. So. Next, let's do this flag match here. Jack Swagger versus Rusev in a flag match. I call this one for Rusev because I just don't see them going. Yeah, I don't see them beating Rusev yet. But then again, maybe that's why they booked it as a flag match. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
But I might be wrong on this one, but I'm calling Rusev for this one.
And I'm going with Jack Swagger simply for that reason, it's so that they can give Jack Swagger the win without actually making Rusev look weak by pinning him. I don't know. I don't really know the how they're supposed to get the flag. Like it, from what I heard through rumors, it's supposed to end up in some sort of submission. It could be a submission match or some shit like that. But I don't really know the rules to this match, this flag match. So once I kind of hammer those all out, my opinion could change. But I'm sticking with Swagger. I think that I think he's hot right now. We could throw a win his way, and not hurt Rusev.
Yeah, I heard the submission thing too. I'm not sure how that's supposed to work in a flag match. We'll see. WCW once had a first blood match end with a pinfall. So next, Chris Jericho versus Bray Wyatt. I am calling this one for Wyatt, and if I believed in God, I would be praying that that's how it would go. What do you think?
I am with you on the Wyatt part of that statement. I think that, like I said, we need to see the slow, methodical destruction of Chris Jericho on his way out the door to bring Bray Starr back up as being that threat to the WWE universe, at least to anybody working there.
Right. Yeah. Hopefully that's the way it goes. Next, Roman Reigns versus Randy Orton. I'm calling this one for Reigns. I don't see how it could go any other way. What do you think? I bet Doc sees how it could go another way. You've got that thoughtful.
I think Randy Orton's going to cheat and beat Roman Reigns.
Okay.
So I just think he's going to do something here to pull off the win, because I think we can squeeze a little bit more juice out of that contest to really piss off Roman Reigns to get his just desserts eventually against Randy Orton. Randy Orton needs to become that pain in the ass in Roman Reigns' side, or you know what I mean, that thorn in Roman Reigns' side. He needs to do that and dig a little deeper, really sink those fangs into Roman Reigns so he's feeling that pain. So I think we need to have Randy Orton really give him a fuck job.
Okay, awesome. Next, Brie Bella versus Stephanie McMahon, the number 2 match on SummerSlam, I remind you. I call this one for Brie. What do you think?
I'm definitely going with Stephanie on this one.
Ooh.
Yes, I think that we're going to see a little bit of a swerve on this one that we didn't see coming. I think I see it coming. I think there's going to be outside interference. Brie Bella is going to be taken by surprise, and Stephanie's going to end up winning this matchup.
Interesting. Okay.
I want to see Stephanie win this matchup because she's McMahon. She should not be losing. I don't care who fucking the Bellas are or what they've done. They don't deserve to win this match.
And finally, the main event, the biggest fight of the summer, if you believe the marketing leading up to it, for the WWE World Heavyweight title, John Cena defending against Brock Lesnar. I'm calling Brock. What do you think?
I'm calling Brock, too. I think he's going to kick John Cena's ass, and I'm looking forward to it.
I think WWE could move themselves in the right direction with a lot of their fans if they just do what they have promised and have Brock Lesnar kick John Cena's ass. I agree. I think that's the best thing they could possibly do for this show, is to have Brock come in and just murder John Cena. And then have Cena come back. Cena's always going to be there. Cena can come back in a month or two and get his revenge. But I mean, they've built this entire show around Brock is going to beat the shit out of John Cena. I think they just need to do that.
Yeah, if they can back up their last prediction as being true, and they back up this prediction as being true, they'll be on a streak, a brand new streak. I don't want to start a brand new streak, but it's a brand new streak that everything Paul Heyman says, although he will tell you he's a liar, is true.
How about that? The guy who always lies will have been telling the truth 2 times in a row. Well, before we close up shop here this week, we have to talk about our legend of the week, Doc. And we announced who the legend was last week. I like that we do that. We announced the legend a week ahead of time. That's cool. And the legend this week is one of the all-time greats, not just in the U.S. but also in Japan. So tell us about our legend of the week.
Well, our wrestler of the week this week stood at 6'4" and weighed in at 321 pounds, and he was from Borger, Texas. And I want to tell you, it was none other than Stan the Man Hansen. One of the, well, to me, this was one of the guys that he didn't. It wasn't much of a stretch when it came to Stan the Man Hansen, because it seemed like everywhere he went, he caused some type of controversy because he just was that rough-ass Texan.
Yeah.
In his early career, he actually played football as part of the West Texas State Buffaloes. Hansen made his professional wrestling debut in 1973. Initially, he took it up as a part-time job because he was trying out for the Detroit Wheels. Hansen began wrestling full-time when the team folded. In 1975, Hansen first teamed with future partner Frank Goodish, who later adopted the ring name Bruiser Brody, while competing in Leroy McGurk's tri-state territory. In 1976, he went to the World Wrestling Federation, and Hansen made his debut there, and only 2 months after he began competing for the company, he began feuding with heavyweight champion Bruno Sammartino over the title. During a title match, Hansen broke Sammartino's neck while they were wrestling, and it was from this incident that both Hansen and promoters claimed that Sammartino's injury came about from the enormous power from his lariat. However, a botched power slam is actually what caused Sammartino's injury, so he didn't actually cause it by the lariat, but because they pushed it and promoted it as the lariat causing Sammartino's broken neck, this is actually how Stan the Man became known to have by his lariat as one of his big moves. After Sammartino recovered, Hansen faced him for the WWF heavyweight title once again, but he was unsuccessful in winning it and left the promotion soon after that. After that, between 1985 and 86, he popped up in American Wrestling Association, and he won the World Heavyweight Championship on December 29th, 1985 from Rick Martel. On June 29, 1986, he no-showed a title defense against a #1 contender, Nick Bockwinkel, due to disagreements with management, forcing the AWA to default the title to Bockwinkel. Rumors suggested Hansen was actually in the building that evening and had been informed by AWA promoter Vern Gagne of the pending loss to Bockwinkel. Hansen allegedly called All Japan Pro Wrestling president Giant Baba to ask if losing the championship was acceptable, but Baba had already lined up challengers for Hansen and did not permit Hansen to drop the championship. At the time, Hansen was already in a feud with Vern's son Greg, in which Hansen as determined to hogtie Greg and make him squeal like a pig. Eventually, Hansen was too much for Gagne. On an episode of All-Star Wrestling, Hansen hogtied Greg and proceeded to make him squeal in front of his fans, friends, and family. As a result, Hansen refused to drop the title to Bockwinkel and was stripped of the championship. Bockwinkel was given one of the tag belts, which was then billed as the AWA World Heavyweight Championship due to Hansen still possessing the true title belt. Hansen immediately returned to Japan and defended the AWA World Heavyweight Championship despite being stripped of it. The AWA threatened legal action if Hansen continued to carry the belt and referred to himself as the organization's champion, so Hansen responded by running over the belt with his truck and mailing it back with the mud tracks still on it upon returning to the United States. This chain of event was reviewed in an interview with Hansen at an NWA Legends convention in which he expressed regret over the way he handled the situation and ultimately complimented Gagne. Now, one thing that you probably may or may not know is that we know Stan Hansen, but he is not known in the United States like he is known in Japan. The man is a true legend of wrestling when it comes to Japanese wrestling. He went over to Japan. He started in New Japan Pro Wrestling, where he feuded with promotional ace Antonio Inoki and teams with Hulk Hogan and Dick Murdoch. Hansen temporarily returned there in 1990 for the first time in 9 years and formed a team with Riki Chosu called the Lariat Combo due to both using a lariat as their finisher. In 1981 to 1990, he was in All Japan Pro Wrestling. that's when he left New Japan. This is where it gets confusing because I'm going to go back and forth between New Japan and All Japan. So I'm just going to say NJ, New Japan, AJ is All Japan. So you follow me easier. Hansen briefly left NJ to join AJ. while in AJ, Hansen would become the only man to pin Antonio Inoki and Giant Baba in championship single matches. He continued wrestling from 1982 to 1999 in World's Strongest Tag Determination League. He wrestled primarily in tag matches where he formed many teams with Bruiser Brody, Terry Gordy, Ted DiBiase, Dan Spivey, Bobby Duncombe, Big Van Vader. Hansen also engaged in a renowned brawl with Andre the Giant in Japan. Here's a good one. In addition to championship matches, Hansen also competed in other high-profile matches. On April 13th, 1990, the World Wrestling Federation and All Japan Pro Wrestling held a super show called Wrestling Summit at the Tokyo Dome in Tokyo, which saw Hansen lose to Hulk Hogan in the main event. At the New Japan Pro Wrestling versus All Japan Pro Wrestling Tokyo Dome show on February 10th, 1982, Hansen competed in another notable match as he represented All Japan Pro Wrestling against New Japan Pro Wrestling representative Big Van Vader. This particular match became renowned for its stiffness as Hansen and Vader repeatedly exchanged blows until Hansen unintentionally poked Vader's right eye with his thumb, which caused the eye to pop out of its socket. After removing his mask, pushing the eye back into its socket and holding it in place with his eyelid, Vader continued wrestling Hansen until the match was rendered a no contest. As a result of the injury, Vader required a metal plate to be surgically placed under his eye. In 1990, Hansen briefly competed in World Championship Wrestling, feuding with Lex Luger over the United States Heavyweight Championship while it was still under the National Wrestling Alliance. On October 27th at Halloween Havoc, Hansen defeated Luger to win the title, ending Luger's record-setting reign of 523 days in the process. On December 16th at Starrcade, Hansen lost the title back to Luger in a bull rope match. Following the title loss, Hansen left the promotion for All Japan Pro Wrestling. He returned to All Japan Pro Wrestling between 1991 and 2001 and got into a major feud with Masahiro Misawa, during which time they traded the Triple Crown Championship between one another. Following Giant Baba's death, Misawa became the new booker and quickly began de-emphasizing Hansen and other foreign talent in favor of new native recruits such as Takao Omori and Yoshihiro Takayama. Did I say that right?
Yeah. Yes, you did.
Damn. Yeah. Soon after that, he would actually soon retire. One of his last matches was a match, I believe, for the Triple Crown. He was in the Triple Crown tournament, I believe, and he had lost to someone in the opening match, which was October 28th, which was part of a tournament to crown a new Triple Crown heavyweight champion. This was one of his last matches he actually ever did. Soon after retiring, Hansen successfully underwent surgery on his back and knees, the latter of which were both replaced. After recovering, he became the commissioner of All Japan Pro Wrestling Pacific Wrestling Federation Championship. That's a lot to say. which saw him appear during the Triple Crown and World Tag Team Championship matches to issue proclamations and matches. In his personal life, Hansen has a small role in the World Wrestling Federation's produced movie No Holds Barred, so he's actually in that movie if you've never seen it. And Hansen is married, has 2 sons. His older son, Shaver. I shouldn't laugh. He'll come kick my ass. His older son, Shaver, played baseball at Baylor University before being drafted by the Seattle Mariners as the second pick in the 6th round of the 2009 Major League Baseball draft. His younger son, Samuel, is also a baseball player and plays for the University of Texas at Arlington. He can be seen in No Holds Barred. There's a book about him called The Last Outlaw. His finishing move was the lariat. He became known for his signature moves like the belly-to-back suplex, the DDT, the elbow drop, pile driver, power bomb, running knee drop, running shoulder block, scoop slam, snap suplex, and he was once managed by Classy Freddie Blassie. So that is my tale of the tape when it comes to Stan the Man Hansen, and it's been my pleasure. And what are your fond thoughts of this rough, rugged, yet great gentleman? I just went red.
Yeah, that's Stan Hansen's revenge for making fun of his kid's name. That's what that is.
Shaver.
Are you making fun of my boy's name?
I don't like anything. I don't like anything named Shaver coming around me.
Right.
I'm
Sorry, it's nothing personal, Stan.
Mm-mm.
We're not, neither one of us are shavers. Stan Hansen is one of the. I mean, we say this every week because all the legends are like this. That's why they get to be called legends. But I mean, just one of the all-time great pro wrestlers ever. Probably the biggest American star ever in Japan. You would think if not him, then it's probably Vader. But I think it's Hansen just for how long he was there. And I mean, listen, how many other wrestlers from any country can say that they've main evented shows against Bruno Sammartino, Nick Bockwinkel, and Mitsuharu Misawa? That's a hell of a resume, you know. And I mean, he worked with brawlers, he worked with, you know, mat wrestlers like Bockwinkel, with really, you know, legendary stiff yet technical guys like Misawa. I mean, he was and yeah, I mean, of course, Giant Baba and back in the 70s, and Inoki. I mean, he was just amazing. He was and one of the best promos ever. I remember this promo he cut that they actually, it's featured in that documentary when they get to that part of the story when they talk about bringing in Hansen and making him the champion briefly, and running over the belt with his truck and all that shit. They show a clip of one of Hansen's promos from the AWA, and he's backstage and they got like a set up, and he knocks the set over and he grabs the microphone, and he always had a bull rope with him. He like whipped the bull rope on the floor, and he said, "I'm not in wrestling to impress young girls or make friends. I got a big fat wife and I got kids at home and they need to be fed, and that's what I'm here to do, to make money so I can feed them."
And then he'd spit chew on the camera. Yeah, he'd spit chew all over the fucking place, man.
He was awesome. He was awesome. So, Stan Hansen. Do you have an idea for who next week's legend is going to be?
Well, I did have a request from one of our fans.
Okay.
And if it's okay with you, maybe we'll do it, because when I was reading this report, I came across Bruiser, and I'm like, ooh, Bruiser. But we did have a request, and if you don't mind, I would like to fulfill that request because I like to please our fans. And next week, don't have a picture. Next week, we're going to be covering Brad Armstrong.
Oh, that's a great pick. I love Brad Armstrong. Let's definitely do Brad Armstrong. I love that.
Definitely, I'm going to have to do my research. I've seen many Brad Armstrong videos, but I'm definitely going to have to do my research of the Armstrong. It might not just be that Armstrong either. It might be a whole slew of Armstrongs.
There's as many Armstrongs as there are Baldwins. So, yeah, there's a mess of them. Yeah, Brad was one of the greats. Now, very quickly, do you have a recommendation for a show that people can watch on the network?
I sure do. I'm not going to go into the whole card detail, but if you want me to suggest one, I have to recommend going into watching Wrestle War, WCW's Wrestle War 1991, featuring the War Games, because my Legend of the Week, Stan Hansen, was involved with that match facing off against Big Van Vader. This actually is the one where Vader gets his eyeball knocked out.
Wow. Awesome. And that is, if I remember correctly, that's a hell of a War Games, too. At Wrestle War 91. That's a good show. My recommendation is also from 1991. My recommendation is actually SummerSlam 1991. It's one of my favorite shows for nostalgic purposes because I watched it on pay-per-view when I was like 11 years old. And the big matches are Hulk Hogan versus Earthquake, and or no, not Hulk Hogan. No, that was the year before. The big matches are Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior in a tag team match versus Sergeant Slaughter and the Iron Sheik, Colonel Mustafa. That's the main event. But the match that everybody remembers is Bret Hart versus Mr. Perfect for the Intercontinental title. That is a hell of a match. One of Bret's best matches. One of his matches that really launched him on his singles push. So that's my recommendation. SummerSlam 91. And of course, that's also the match made in heaven where Macho Man and Elizabeth get married at the end. So it's a good show, and if you haven't watched it or you haven't watched it for a while, that's my recommendation. So Wrestle War 91 from Doc, SummerSlam 91 for me. Remind you of wrestling from the good old days, kind of, sort of. Well, that's it for this week. We're going to get out of here. SummerSlam is on Sunday. Check it out. It's only $9.99, apparently, on the WWE Network. Or you can just buy it on pay-per-view like a regular person.
Well, it depends. They don't have it on Dish Network or
That's true.
DirecTV, so
That's
I don't
true.
know. I don't know. I guess it's in the hands of your local cable provider
Yeah.
if they're carrying the pay-per-view, because you might not be able to see it. And if you don't get the WWE Network for only $9.99 a month, then you're not going to be able to see this great action or any of the stuff we just recommended. So you're up shit creek.
Yeah, that's true. You're shit out of luck. And if you happen to live in Doc and I's area and your cable provider is Antietam Cable, you should probably just get the network. You don't want to have to call Antietam Cable and talk to those people.
But then again, if you live in our area, you might not be watching SummerSlam this Sunday because you might be at the Maryland Theater watching total nonstop action.
That's true. That's true. They are invading Hagerstown to cross promote against SummerSlam at the Maryland Theater. Yeah.
I'm supposed to score some free tickets. If that's the case, I'm going to see the show because
sure.
Being a network subscriber, I can watch SummerSlam the next day.
Anytime you want.
That's right.
That's fucking right. All right, everybody. We'll be back next week to run down our predictions to see who got it right and who got it wrong. Thank you, as always, for joining us. Doc, thank you, as always, for being my awesome host. We'll see you next week, everybody. Thanks for watching.
Whoop, whoop, everybody.